𝐘𝐨𝐬𝐬. Sir, please explain how Arab nationalism developed after First World War and its link to Isle imperialism. What points you should mention? 𝐘𝐨𝐬𝐬, you have possibly you have not realized you have given a very pertinent challenge to me, because it is very difficult to concentrate and to explain the Arab nationalism and Isle imperialism within the stipulated time of 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. This is a long story, and this involves so many stakeholders and players, and it involves so many decades. But still, I am just trying to give you the precise informations, or you can say to give the informations as precise as possible. In fact, in course of the First World War, first of all, just try to observe the Arab region. What was the Arabian region? You will find that basically the Arabian region is the region, you can say, just between the three important seas and Gulf: Persian Gulf, the right side, Red Sea, left side, and Arabian Sea in the south direction. So the tract of the land among the three seas, that is known as Arabian region. It was the part of the so-called Ottoman Empire, or Ottoman Empire was from Turkish origin, and Arabian people were just treating themselves as the direct descendants from Prophet Muhammad. So Ottoman Emperor was making the claim of the caliphate, but the Arabian people were not making any compromise with this position, because Arabian people came to believe that we are originally from the blood of Prophet Muhammad, so why we should accept the caliphate-ship of this Turkish people who were supposed to be inferior to the original Arabian people. So that's why they were not making a compromise with and they were, Arabian region just remained to be a colony of this Ottoman Empire. So there was a sense of grudge among Arabian people against this Ottoman government. The British government tried to make benefit from this situation, and it was the time there was a British officer, his name was the Lawrence of Arabia. So as he was known as the Lawrence of Arabia, so this Lawrence of Arabia just decided to make benefit from the situation. And with the connivance with the British government, this was the Lawrence of Arabia who presented a proposal to a Grand Sharif of Makkah. Here I have to inform you that the Arabian people were not making a compromise with the caliphate-ship of Ottoman Empire, and they rejected Ottoman Emperor as their true caliphate, and they used to treat as their true caliphate another personality. His name was Hussein, and he was the Grand Sharif of Makkah. So Grand Sharif of Makkah was the very prestigious personality in Arabian region, and his son was Faisal, and Faisal was the personal friend to this British officer. His name was Lawrence of Arabia. Lawrence of Arabia was so much Islamized. Even today, you will just see on the YouTube his figure. You will be surprisingly, you will be shocked, because he was just wearing like Arab caliph, or you can say as the Arabian leader. He was just putting the scarf on his head, and he maintained the long grown hair, etc. So he was giving a perfect Islamic and the Muslim look, in spite of the fact that he was a British officer. So it was through the agency of Lawrence, the British made a contact with the Grand Sharif of Makkah, Hussein, and his son Faisal. And to them, the British government presented a very mouth-watering proposal. That was the proposal was that the Grand Sharif of Makkah, Hussein and Faisal, had to organize a revolt against the Ottoman Empire. And they had to organize a revolt against the Ottoman Empire. So a question may persist in your mind: what is the British objective or the British motive behind that? So it was the fact that First World War was going on, and you will observe the two parties, the contender in this war. You will come to realize that the British represented the Allied powers, and this Ottoman Empire was the part of the Central Power. Central Power means Germany, Austria. Along with Germany and Austria, even this Ottoman Empire participated. So both the British Empire and the Ottoman Empire were at the loggerheads in the First World War. So British Empire was much concerned about the Ottoman Empire. It was due to the fact that the British were much possessive, having a sense of possession, a strong possession towards India. So British were apprehensive about the fact that in the First World War and in course of the First World War, if one country or one power might damage us too much, that is Ottoman Empire, because Ottoman Empire was lying on the eastern side of Europe, and it was just the main route from Britain to India. So Britain was apprehensive about the fact that if Ottoman Empire would maintain its power and position, it might block the British route towards India. So for that fear, the British government was inclined to weaken the position of Ottoman Empire in this war. So that's why they provoked Faisal and Grand Sharif of Makkah and his son Faisal. Grand Sharif of Makkah was Hussein and Faisal, to organize a revolt, and the British government also give the assurance to this Grand Sharif, or you can say Hussein and Faisal, keep the Ottoman Empire just would send its army to suppress the revolt. In the meantime, the British would provide them the important and sufficient number of contingents to help them in order to counter this Ottoman invasion. So in this way, making benefit from the British support, you people have to declare your independence. And believe us, just after the First World War, whenever there would be the organization of an international conference, so in this international conference, the whole Arabian region would be formed as a single one nation, and none else but Hussein would be just the ruler of this unified Arabian nation. Very mouth-watering proposal, and Hussein and Faisal worked on this option, and both of them just tried to expel Turkey from this Arabian region, and they got success. They organized a revolt, although it was not the revolt of the common people, rather it was the revolt of the elites in Arabian region. But after all, the Ottoman Empire was rebuffed from this Arabian region. They were just compelled to leave the region, and British army just gave the timely support to Hussein and Faisal. So finally this Arabian region got freedom from Ottoman Empire. But my students, here I have to inform you, if whenever there was the time for fulfilling the promise to Arabian nationals, so British and French power, who were forming the Allied powers, so they cheated the Arabian nationalism completely. Because in the meantime, the first one agreement in 1915, which was the agreement which was reached between the British party and Hussein and Faisal, so that is called Hussein-Mahan agreement. And according to Hussein-Mahan agreement, this treaty and this Arabian nationalism has to be given the due respect. But in the meantime, on the basis of a secret treaty between the Britain and France, and you might have heard about the treaty. So this treaty, the name of the treaty is Sykes-Picot Agreement. So on the basis of the Sykes-Picot Agreement, both the Britain and France decided we have to dismember this Arabian region, and this region has to be duly divided between the French and the British party. So obviously you can say it was direct cheating towards Arabian nationalism. Arabian nationalism was deceived, cheated. So it created a sense of grudge, and not simply that, but after the First World War, there was the organization of such a conference. You might have heard about the Paris Peace Conference. And in this Paris Peace Conference, in place of creating a single Arabian empire, the Arabian regions were divided among different nations. First of all, the Iraq was placed under the control of Britain under mandate system. What was the mandate system? So here I cannot explain the mandate system in details because I am having the constraint of time, but in sum total you have to understand that mandate system was just a cover to the naked colonialism. In mandate system, just try to establish that this region is underdeveloped, So this region would be kept under the control of a superior power for some time, and whenever this superior power will come to realize that this region has now duly developed, then this superior power had to provide the freedom to this respective country. In this way, you can say it was just a cover to the colonial motive, nothing else. So Iraq was placed under the British control, and Hejaz, this Hussein was made the ruler, but he has to work at the behest of the British government. Likewise, in Jordan, another brother of Hassel, his name was Abdullah, he was placed, but Abdullah was not ruling as the independent ruler. And Syria and Lebanon were placed under the mandate of France. So in this way, the whole Arabian region was cheated, my friends. It was the Arabian nationalism, and it created the condition of Arabian nationalism. The enough sinful acts were committed by the Western power, and which enraged this Arabian region. And so First World War, here I have to inform you that First World War is supposed to be a war of 4 years for Europe, but war of 31 years for Europe, because the seeds of the Second World War were lying in the First World War itself. But for Arabian region, it is supposed to be a war which stretched even longer than 100 years, because it started from 1920, and this war is still continuing. You can just expect it was a war more than involving the region of more 100 years. Now, my students, we have simultaneously posed another question: what is oil imperialism? So from the beginning of 20th century, the hydrocarbon production started in Arabian region. Here the leading country was Iran, then Iraq, then Saudi Arabia, all the regions. So once they started to produce the hydrocarbon products, and in the meantime, after the invention of internal combustion engine from early 20th century onwards, the hydrocarbon products were just, you can say, gained larger importance in international market. But the Western powers were not owning that, so just they looked towards these regions, Arabian region, and Arabian region were having the oil reserve, but it was not having the technology. So the Western powers formed their companies, and their companies control their oil reserve. And quite shockingly, this parental country which was owning this oil reserve, he was given the very less amount from the royalty as the royalty. For example, if 100 rupees, if the product is sold in 100 rupees, 10 rupees was given as the royalty, and 90 rupees were appropriated by the respective country of the Western powers. So here you can say reaction set in, and as the result you can say the initiative was taken first by the government of Iran. This was known as the government of Mossadegh. So it was the government of Mossadegh, who initiated a process, and Mossadegh, in 1953, he basically, not 1953, because in 1951, this government of Mossadegh just nationalized Anglo-Iranian company in the name of their own national company, because in sum total you can say that the British lost the claim from Iranian company which was extracting oil from the Iranian region, and finally you can say Iran itself took the charge of the company. It was offensive to the Western powers, because you might have heard a proverb कि खरबूजे को देखकर ही खरबूजा रंग पकड़ता है. Now USA was going to be equally alarmed कि the same case will happen in the same incident might have been repeated in her case also. So it was the USA which took the initiative in 1953 and pulled down the government of Mossadegh and installed a puppet government in Iran that was called the government of Shah. So this government remained up to 1979, and later this was Ayatollah Khomeini who organized a revolt against the government and expelled the government from the region, and there was the Iranian takeover, or you can say this ulema and orthodox elements made a takeover of the government of Iran. So there was the revival of Islamic fundamentalism in Iran, and it was this Islamic fundamentalists. So they even attacked the American embassies, and nearly 266 people. So they were made the hostage, and they remained to be hostage for 2.5 years. So this became a bone of contention between Iran and America. So my friends, so it was the Western powers themselves who created the situation today, what you know as the problem of the Arabian region. So this is your answer. And Saurabh Jaiswal, although this question was long, but I have tried at my best to clarify the things. I think you are clear.